Hello everybody, I'm back again, very slow on the uploads, it's been a busy time, there'll hopefully be another upload coming shortly. But for now I'm going to try and continue on from one of my previous episodes when I looked at a singular signing improving the teams in the lower half of the league, the bottom five. Now I'm going to have a look at the top five, slightly different ambitions, slightly different goals obviously. This is for teams to either ensure Champions League places or for some of them to push them to the title. So I'm going to go in order of this currently uploading. I am aware that Chelsea will be playing later on. There are games in hand for teams like Arsenal as well. It's just going to have to go with that one, unfortunately, guys. Never mind. Here we go. So the one signing for Liverpool, I wanted to look at left back. I think there haven't been too many weaknesses with this Liverpool team. Obviously, you've still got the situation over contracts not necessarily being signed with Salah, Trent and Virgil van Dijk. Strong rumours of Trent having already agreed terms with Real Madrid, which we will find out when it becomes more public knowledge in January. Rumours that they're struggling to get an agreement with Mohamed Salah. Nothing solid actually said about Van Dijk. I'm assuming something's been said, something's been done, or something is in the works, because if you lose all three, it's an absolutely calamitous thing. But I'm not going to focus on those positions currently because, well, I've already covered them in a previous video, and until anything's confirmed, I can't worry about that. But what I can worry about is what the clear weaknesses are within this team currently. Now, within this team currently, all of the team is very strong. The goalkeepers, most of the defenders, that midfield balance is working perfectly. Lots of options to switch around the attacking front three. I'm looking at left back. One person that's looked weak for me out of this team is Andy Robertson. It looks like he is a player that is aging out now. This might be the opportunity to try and bring in a youngster, or a younger player, potentially with experience. So I'm looking at Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth. It's a 21-year-old Hungarian international. This is sort of a proper sort of full season under his belt here with Bournemouth, having done very well, showing a great deal of ability to get up and down the pitch. Sort of almost a very similar style to Andy Robertson back in his heyday. 21 years old means he's very young and you can have him for quite a few years. I know several people were sort of thinking about Robertson from Fulham. However, I think age-wise, I think he's only a couple of years younger than Andy Robertson in the first place. So I don't necessarily know if that's a great deal of long-term thinking, a long-term strategy there. As much as he is a good player, which he is, and I think he's established and settled, I just think I don't think there's that much of a level of difference in performance between the two of them. And then I'd probably bank on the younger one being able to sort of lock down that position, and then potentially with him being younger, having to potentially to either learn off Robertson. Obviously the idea of potentially trying to shift off Tsimikas maybe, because he's never really established himself enough for me. But yeah, that's what I think. I mean, a realistic fee in my head, by all means correct me if I'm wrong on any of these fees. These are my estimations, not anyone else's. I think it'd probably be 40 to 60 million potentially to get him out of Bournemouth, because Bournemouth are obviously doing very well in the league. They aren't really going to be willing to let too many of their players go, especially if they are going to mount this European push potentially, sort of looking at Conference or Europa League football. But yeah, he's currently second, and I can't believe this. It's Nottingham Forest, who actually originally put second bottom. My one continuously making me look like a complete fool. Ugh. So Nottingham Forest, I think they've got a strong foundation and a strong defence. I don't think there's any. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think everyone in that back line is amazing. I think Chris Wood's top notch. Awoniyi, good backup. The wings, I think you've got good depth there. You've got good options there with Hudson-Odoi and Ilanga, with people like Dominguez coming off the bench as well. I'm looking at another attacking midfielder, as well as obviously you've got Morgan Gibbs-White. I don't want you to become too reliant on certain players, and I think Nottingham Forest, some teams might start figuring them out a little bit going into the second half of the season. So you need to have that plan B. You need to have something different, something fresh. Obviously, they don't have the budgets of any of these other teams who are currently competing for Champions League football. So I've gone for a very fun, a very punchy shout of trying to get Arda Güler on loan from Real Madrid. Now, he's not playing regularly, and I don't know whether he will ever play regularly because of the strongest Real Madrid team. I'm sorry to say he ain't in it. He's obviously very young, 19 years old, sort of a starring light for Turkey in the Euros. But if he isn't going to get the minutes, what I would do is I would try and put yourself in the shop window to make yourself as appealing as possible. And if you could make it in the Premier League, you're going to have a lot of suitors, unless he wants to go on loan to a La Liga team or something like that, potentially. But I think it will show more being able to try and do it in the Prem. Slight concerns over his physicality, potentially, but you can't argue his technical gifts and technical quality on the ball. It's absolutely amazing. And I think adding competition to Morgan Gibbs White is only going to strengthen it. It's having extra depth in the squad for what's going to potentially be a long haul, an option to potentially sometimes bring off the bench to try something different to unlock defences that might be getting wise to how you're playing. And so, as I'm saying, it's not an expensive move from Nottingham Forest, but it could really ensure sort of European football for next season, as they do seriously look like they might be in contention for top four. And I think they need another player to get that over the line to confirm it. I'm not sure if the strength of this squad is strong enough. However, they have repeatedly proved me wrong this year, so I may end up with more egg on my face, but there we have it. Cool. So, Arsenal. Arsenal, in my opinion, want a striker. It's as simple as that. I think their backline's good, the goalkeeper's good. I think the midfield is good once you've got everyone fully fit. I think the wingers, are good. Obviously, Saka on the right, the left wing. I mean, you can make arguments sort of saying that no one's really locked that one down enough, whether Trossard or Martinelli. But then you've got Havertz obviously playing quite a bit as the striker, and ideally you wanted him, who was bought originally as an 8, sort of within the midfield, being able to be physical and sort of use that sort of brain of his and sort of match intelligence on the pitch. So I've gone for this. This is going to be the punchiest one out of all of them because this is so unrealistic for a January move. I'll hold my hands up. I admit that. Maybe a summer move, but with Amorim having left Sporting Lisbon, I want to see Arsenal make a very, very punchy move for Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon. Now, I know this is going to be an expensive move and a very difficult one to obviously go through with. Sporting Lisbon obviously still in the Champions League, so he would be cup tied from that, but this is to help them with the Premier League push, so I don't think that will bother Arsenal in the slightest. That way they can rest and rotate, that's fine. He's obviously competing for another league title within Portugal, which, to be honest, they'll probably end up getting because they are still ridiculously good. I would just test it. Well, I mean, without Amorim there, you sort of wonder, could you just put in a cheeky bid, maybe try, be a bit more interesting? Now, obviously, he's done very well. 16 matches, 14 goals, 2 assists, obviously in Liga NOS. To be fair, most players recently from Liga NOS have sort of their abilities. They have transferred well into the Premier League. You've had several sort of good, shining examples of that. Obviously, Arsenal might feel a little bit burnt after the Fabio Vieira deal a while ago, but I think this one's a pretty safe home banker. I see rumours and links getting Cunha from Wolves. I honestly think Wolves will hold you over a barrel for this one, and I don't necessarily fully believe the hype with him. I think he's having a very, very good season for Wolves currently, but he's not a striker that's known to have been prolific. Wasn't prolific at Atletico Madrid before his move to Wolves. Obviously, it was a large fee originally if Wolves wanted to recoup that. They originally bought him for 50 million. He only really sort of banged at Hertha Berlin, which got him his Atletico move. This is obviously his strongest season in a Wolves shirt. I don't believe there's enough consistency in his game for it to sort of continue. Maybe the tweak in the systems, having made him the main man, helps. He will not be the main man at Arsenal, and I don't believe ability-wise he offers anything better than what Arsenal already have. I think they have good attacking options. They want that standout, out-and-out striker to lead the line. Cunha is not that. He's not someone that leads the line for Wolves currently. That's Strand Larsen. Cunha's naturally been playing off of that and to the left primarily, and then coming inside. So I don't back that as a deal whatsoever. So Gyökeres, obviously very ambitious, very punchy. I'd be looking, it's going to be about 80 to 100 million realistically. Whether you could potentially offset that by sort of getting another player going their way, we'll see. But it's the punchy one. But I think if they made that happen, I think Liverpool would be scared. I think they would be really scared. And I think it would give add that extra bit of fear factor to the Arsenal team, because I think a lot of teams primarily focus on doubling up on Saka because he's the player that they're afraid of. I want to give them, if I was Arsenal, I want them to be afraid of all my players, and he is someone, as a centre-back, I'd be afraid of. He's physical, he bullies, he's clinical, he knows where the goal is. Cool. So I look at Chelsea. Chelsea are one of the most free-scoring teams in the league, so I'm not looking at the attack. I think their midfield, they've got the balance right. Caicedo being one of the best midfielders in the league this season. Enzo Fernandez obviously doing a very good job as well. Lavia obviously not shifting out Palmer. Now, you can make an argument for goalkeeper, but I think the option's already there if they decide to rotate their goalkeepers around. As I don't back Robert Sanchez, I think Jorgensen, currently he's been playing Conference League, needs more starts in the actual Premier League, because I think he's got the ability to displace Robert Sanchez, so I don't believe goalkeeper's the right option. I think Gusto's very solid on the right, I think Cucurella very solid on the left. I'm going to look for a centre-back. I think one thing lacking in this Chelsea team is experience and leadership. And I think Levi Colwill, obviously, predominantly will be the left-sided one, and potentially look at a right-sided one. I'm looking at Jonathan Tah from Bayer Leverkusen. Now, there are a lot of rumours of various teams looking around him and sniffing at him because his contract is up at the end of the season. So, by this logic, you could get him on a cut-price deal, as Leverkusen would rather earn some money rather than no money. Regular German international, knows how to win, having won Bayer Leverkusen. Chelsea, generally speaking, I know they have had very mixed responses from getting players from the Bundesliga, but they need experience, and this is the most sort of home banker one I can sort of see that would match up sort of perfectly there. 28 years old, good level of experience. Still obviously got quite a few years in him as well. At that point, having him for a few seasons and Levi Colwill really establishing himself as that left centre-back, which is what I want as an England fan as well, I think will do brilliantly for Chelsea, because if they can shut that back line, they are going up the table. It's as simple as that. They've got the ability to score goals. They just need the ability to keep them out the other end, really. So, because his contract is up, I honestly believe an offer for 20 to 30 million. Otherwise, they're potentially losing him for free in the summer, of which Chelsea could sign him on a pre-contract. But I would make a move quickly. I think Chelsea can offer the money, and they would have to, because teams like Real Madrid and Bayern Munich are obviously sniffing around. So that's something to be mindful of. Cool. And the fifth placed team I'm going to have a look at is Manchester City, which I didn't believe I'd start the season they'd be fifth below Nottingham Forest. They need a midfielder. They need the Rodri replacement. It's glaringly obvious. It's an aging out. It's an old team as well, so ideally they want younger players within that team, just to sort of rejig, just someone that can protect the back four a little bit with sort of a nice steady passing range. They haven't got another Rodri-like player within that setup, within that team, and it's telling and it's hurting them. Mateo Kovacic, he does a bit of everything okay. He doesn't do a singular thing amazingly, is the one thing I would say. And he's sort of having to do that Rodri sort of role. If I was Manchester City, I would look at Rodri's compatriot Zubimendi out of Real Sociedad. Now, he's been talked about a lot over sort of since the summer. Move broke down with them potentially going to Liverpool over the summer. He wanted to stay, even though most things had been agreed. So it's clear that Real Sociedad have a value in their head. They're not doing spectacularly well in Liga currently. And there are rumblings that he will be looking for the door. And if I'm a Spanish midfielder, I know which manager I want to learn from. That's Pep Guardiola. It's as simple as that. And I think obviously he's got plenty of compatriots there to work with. I think when Rodri's fully fit, they could easily form a double pivot, potentially, like they could for Spain. I think he's obviously a different profile from other midfielders. As I mentioned Kovacic. I think Rico Lewis is a very poor stopgap there. He needs to be establishing himself as that fullback primarily instead of throwing him into the midfield, which is not really ideal for me. I think City might need a few other players. But as 25 years old, Zubimendi would be around for a good few years, and he's a lot younger than many of the 30-plus-year-olds kicking around the Manchester City lineup. I think because of the rumours of him leaving, although this would rely on no other teams trying to push in to get a sort of bidding war going, I'd maybe look at 40 to 50 million. I honestly think could get him out of Real Sociedad, depending on whether other teams start bidding in for him, of which the offers might have to go further up. But he's not competing in Europe either, majorly, so I don't believe he'll be cup tied. But obviously, this primarily would be a signing to lock down themselves in the league, potentially helping them with an FA Cup maybe. So they have some trophies to show for what has been so far a lacklustre season for Manchester City standards. But yeah, that wraps up for now. But let me know, what would you think would improve any of these teams? Would you like me to look at any other teams in the league? Let me know. Thank you very much. I'll see you in a bit.